Hello and welcome to Policy Bazaar. I'm Arjun Bhagat. Now, we buy insurance with the intention to safeguard ourselves against unforeseen and unbudgeted situations. Imagine a scenario when you approach your insurer for settling a claim only to find out that it has been rejected at the last minute, leaving you angry, bewildered and stressed. And you wonder why it happened, given that you were always proactive in making timely payments. So what made the insurer deny your basic right as a policy holder? Are you somehow responsible for this? Well, perhaps you are. Today, we'll try and find out and identify reasons why insurance claims get rejected and find out ways to ensure our claims do not get denied. Let's welcome Yashish Dahiya with us, CEO and co-founder of Policy Bazaar. Welcome to the show, Yashish. You know, I have the figures in front of me. IRDAI, in its annual report, says 8,57,000 claims went through in 2013-2014. Yet we keep hearing that, you know, my claim has been denied, it's been unjust, they haven't followed the proper procedure. What's the reason for that?
So there are multiple reasons why claims get denied. And of course, different claims get denied for different reasons. So the first and foremost is, did the customer provide any incorrect information? So when one is filling up the form, if people have provided incorrect information or wrong medical information, that can be a ground for denial of claim. Now, I must also in the same breath clarify that beyond 3 years, no claim can be rejected in life insurance, just cannot be rejected, even if wrong information was provided. But initially, a customer has to take care of the fact that they do not provide incorrect information. I think the second biggest reason is exclusions. Various things are excluded in various policies. So whether it's a motor insurance policy or a health insurance policy, there could be various kinds of exclusions. You know, there'll be time frames, temporary exclusions, permanent exclusions. So certain diseases are not covered for the first 3 years, 4 years, 2 years of different policies. Certain types of issues are not covered in a car insurance, right? Now, the third most important reason is a lapsed policy. And this is more a life insurance issue because health and motor are annual policies. So if there you have a policy or you don't have a policy. If you don't renew your policy has lapsed, you're not covered. However, in life insurance it becomes tricky because you may miss a payment deadline, and then if the death happens, then that situation also is not covered. Because so there are ways, companies are somewhat lenient. They sometimes allow those kind of payments, those kind of claims to be addressed, but sometimes they may not be addressed. These are the primary reasons why a claim can be rejected. There can of course be multiple others like carelessness, influence of drugs. These are not usually used for life insurance, but they would be used for things like travel insurance or motor insurance. They will become important. So, but that is the primary reason why claims would be rejected. And of course, if something is rejected unduly, then a customer does have the ability to kind of get back through various mechanisms.
So what about travel insurance? You mentioned that. So what are the grounds on the basis of which they would reject your claim?
Yeah. So see, travel insurance is largely a health insurance product, and one needs to appreciate that. In addition, there are certain baggage loss, etc. So we'll cover both aspects. So if it is a health insurance situation, unless it's an emergency, most pre-existing conditions are not covered. So if somebody goes abroad and says, I think I might not be feeling well, I think I would have a heart surgery here in the US, that would not be covered because that's not what travel insurance is. However, if they have a heart attack and they need immediate support, that would be covered. So emergencies are covered, but various other things are not covered. The second thing that is not covered in a travel insurance kind of situation is if the time has lapsed. So you've taken a policy for 15 days, but you've somehow been overstaying, then you obviously will not be covered. Third thing that is not covered is, suppose you travel and come back. In many cases, we have seen that your inward travel is not covered for loss of baggage. And that's a very, it's an unfair one, but the consumers need to be aware of this, that if your baggage is lost, suppose you bought the policy from India, you've gone abroad, and now you're returning back to India. You've reached the Indira Gandhi airport or the Chhatrapati airport.
This is very interesting. I haven't heard of this before.
Yeah, and your baggage is not there. Then that is arguably and some companies pay it, some companies don't pay it. I think the very harsh companies don't pay it. Arguably, you're no longer traveling because you've landed in the country where you're supposed to be. And now if your baggage is lost, arguably, that does not get covered. So very few companies deny that claim, but we have seen that as a grounds for denial. So that would be the primary reason why travel insurance claims would not be covered.
So suppose my claim got rejected. Now, what is the recourse as the first initial steps? What do I need to do?
If one's claim is rejected, the first thing one needs to do is get back their insurance policy and read their policy. Because when you read that policy, you would see the company will obviously give you a reason why they have rejected. And you need to check back with your policy and see if that reason is mentioned in your policy or not. So it would be one of the exclusions, or it would be one of the particular points, or a lapsed policy. There can be other reasons like, your nominee, you've not filed in your correct nominee papers, etc. So if a lapse has, if you find that, yes, it was mentioned in the policy document, you just had not read it earlier, then it is your fault because, obviously that means it's not meant to be covered. And the company has taken a position and you need to kind of just respect that. In case you find that it is not right and you do not feel that the wording was appropriately used or the language is appropriate, then you start approaching the company. And if the company does not respond, you reach out to the ombudsman. The companies have these adjudicators. So the thing is the company would put...
So the first step is you write to the company.
The first step is you write to the company. You give it about 30 days.
And if that doesn't happen,
then you go to the ombudsman.
Right.
The ombudsman might ask the company adjudicator to have a look at the case. And if the company adjudicator says...
So by adjudicator, you mean a person who's been nominated by the company?
He's been nominated by the company, but he's meant to be like a third party. He's meant to be kind of an impartial body, a neutral person who will take a mature stance on,
who'll evaluate your case,
absolutely,
see the response from the company, and then come to a decision.
Absolutely. In case you're not happy with that, then you go to the ombudsman. And if you're not happy with the result of the ombudsman result can be contested in court by both the insurance company and the consumer. So sometimes the insurance companies go to court. So there are multiple cases. There's one particular case which has reached the Supreme Court. So the company can go to the court or the customer can go to the court. But most cases, when the ombudsman decides, the company pays, right? And but you can go to the court after that. You can go to the High Court. You can, if you're not happy with that, you can go to the Supreme Court. So the courts of the land stay there, and that could you could go to the court for whatever reason and eventually win or not win the case.
So how true is the fact that you're required to file a claim within 24 hours to 48 hours on something happening, a life being lost or some accident taking place?
So see, in a life loss case, you don't have to inform that quickly. Typically, a 1 week is considered okay. Even 30 days is fine. But 1 week is considered okay to report the case.
And that goes for natural deaths as well as accidents?
Accident deaths, etc. Of course, if a person is missing, then you inform. And then there's a long process. They will wait for 7 years before they decide whether the person is... So a person is declared dead if they go missing for more than 7 years, right? However, if a person is... so you have to inform within 7 days to 30 days. And the company, once you've informed them, will ask you for the form which you have to fill, sign in. You would have to provide a death certificate, and you would have to provide the nominees' identification documents, which would include their identification photo ID and address proof. But what you must, which may not be asked for, but what you must keep with yourselves in case of such an unfortunate situation is the post-mortem documents, the employer certificate, and the hospital certificate. Because in case there is any investigation, if you have an employer certificate, that is a very quick way of proving the existence of the person. Because sometimes they say this person had actually expired earlier. An employer certificate proves that that person was there. A hospital certificate proves the same thing. And a post-mortem certificate also proves the timeliness, the time of the death and the reason of the death. So these Documents, while they may not be required at first hand, please keep them with yourselves, and also keep at least 2 copies of every document you have submitted, because you might require these later on. So because it becomes
documentation is really the key.
I think documentation is important because we've seen a lot of people go around in circles because the documentation is not, because the company will come up with, see, it's a large amount being paid. They have to pay it. Under the new law, after 3 years, it's compulsory. There's almost no question that you may have given misleading information, you may have hidden facts, whatever it be. After 3 years, the claim just has to be paid. However, it has to be paid to the right nominee.
Right.
It has to be paid upon death. So what they're trying to determine is death has actually happened. The nominee is the right person to pay. What if I take somebody's paper and submit it and kind of get the money somehow in my name? So those kind of things they're trying to prevent. It's not that they're trying to say that a death hasn't happened and we don't have to pay the claim at all. So you have to make sure that those documents are there, and they have their own diligence process, and a person has to follow that.
What about the obligation on the part of the companies? Now, consumers have an obligation to report a claim within a certain period of time. What about the obligation of the companies to, conclude an investigation within a certain frame of time? I mean, does that apply to them as well?
Yes, it certainly does. So there is a guideline provided that all death claims must be settled within 6 months. And once all documents are received, the death claim must be paid within 30 days. However, as we look at the reports, we still find a lot of claims pending from prior years, largely because of either lack of documentation or they're being investigated. We also find cases of repudiation. But 6 months is the time frame after which the regulator looks at it very harshly for an insurance company not to have paid a particular claim.
And when one goes to buy a policy, how important is the claim ratio? Because we go on a website and say, all right, so 50,000 claims have come, they've cleared that many. Is that the right way to buy a policy?
See, most claim rejections happen in the early stage of a policy. So the first 2 years of a policy can be, we have seen a lot of fraudulent claims come within the first 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of the policy. One cannot decide death 3 years from now or 4 years from now. That's quite...
so this falls in the realm of repudiation of a policy?
Of a repudiation as well. So repudiation, repudiation. And that would usually be in the first 2 years. So one has to be extremely careful when looking at these numbers. The claim settlement ratio almost tells you nothing. Because after 3 years, all claims have to be paid now. Under law, under no ground can you say that I will not pay this particular claim. As I'm explaining, a person may have misstated every fact about themselves. They may have misstated they don't have cancer. You may not have done the medical. You may have gone ahead. They had cancer and they die of cancer, and you still have to pay the claim if 3 years have passed. So misstatement, everything is covered, right? Of course, a company may go to court saying this was fraudulent activity done by the consumer and hence but they have to initially pay the claim. Now, however, in the first 3 years, claims can, of course, get rejected. And that is what the claims ratio tells you. And the reason I said it shouldn't be taken very seriously is because the younger companies will always have a bad claims ratio. Because see, most of the life insurance policies, we just talked about a number, 8 lakh something claims. The pure life insurance policies, which do not have any investment component, the total sales is 2 lakh policies in a year. So I think 8 lakh policies have not been sold. There are not 8 lakh people in this country, probably there may be 10 lakh people in this country who have ever bought a pure life insurance policy, the 50 lakh, 1 crore cover kind of policy. So it's that small. Many people have not bought. So the claims ratios one is talking about is all those policies which are investment come.
Perhaps they should make that distinction.
How would they? The pure life insurance is 0.5% of the industry. 99.5% of the industry is actually life plus investment. And
savings component.
So it's a 2 lakh rupee policy for which you have probably already paid 2 lakh rupees and you're getting paid back. what is the claims ratio telling you? It is just your money, your own money is coming back. Whereas in a term plan, you're paying 10,000 rupees, you're getting a 1 crore cover. There, the claims ratio means something. Point is, first 3 years are important. Do not misstate, but beyond that, you do not need to worry. Every company has to pay you the full claim as long as your nominee papers are in place and the nominee identification is in place and your policy, you have not lapsed your policy, you are still paying your policy premiums. You have been paying your policy premiums, a claim cannot be rejected and it is not worth looking at.
So let's quickly go through the points that you need to ensure that your claim doesn't get rejected.
Yeah, I think most importantly, understand your policy. Because, see, most of the time what we find is the consumer says, how can this be? So I'll give you an example. For motor insurance, if one goes and gets the service done or the repair done without informing the insurance company, right? There's a chance the claim is going to have questions. Because ideally you should have informed the insurance company, their surveyor should have come, their surveyor should have assessed the damage. Their surveyor will say, yes, I'm okay to pay 50,000 rupees when I see 50,000 rupees of damage, and then it will get repaired. But you have got it done beforehand. Now the insurance company gets suspicious that are you in cahoots with the repair mechanic, etc., and have you got fake bills? Did your car ever had the accident? There's very little proof, right? So one does that. Similarly, in health insurance, you inform so one thing is inform in time. Understand the policy well. The other piece we hear is, how can this be? You know, a person was driving.
That's a very common one.
A person was driving his car. It gets stuck in water, and he keeps trying to restart it, and the engine jams. Now, in 90%, 95% of policies, unless you have an engine protector cover, specifically, that claim is going to get rejected. And a customer is like, what else am I supposed to do? You know, I'm stuck in water. Obviously, I'll try to restart my car.
And that goes for comprehensive policies as well?
That goes for comprehensive policies as well.
So
that
you
goes
need to
for
take that as an add-on.
That goes for a zero depreciation. That goes for a zero depreciation policy as well, because this particular piece, it is voluntary damage to your own car.
Right.
Now, a good driver is supposed to know that if you keep restarting your car, it can get waterlogged, and the engine can seize. Or if there's an oil leakage going on, and you can see that, and you keep restarting, the engine can seize. But you know, in India, the driving habits we have, most people are not aware of this. And we've seen expensive cars and owners getting very upset at the fact that their claim got rejected because of this reason. Similarly, in health insurance, one would go and say, what do you mean? What kind of health policy is this if it doesn't cover this? It's written there as exclusions. So most important is understanding the policies. Most of the times, an insurance company will not act arbitrarily. An insurance company will act sanely and somewhat in the side of the consumer. Usually, they may take a harsh position, but their harsh position will be grounded on law. And do not misstate facts. So do not misstate facts and read the policy. If you do these two, then largely one should be fine. And of course, inform in time and keep your paperwork in place. So your nominee details, if you have to inform the company in time, do not lapse your policy. Make sure your premiums are paid on time. If you take care of these 4 or 5 things, you should be fine.
And we've got Manohar who's written to us and asks, is it true that one cannot buy a stand-alone cancer insurance plan if someone in your family has had cancer below the age of 60? If so, then what are the options available? Also, is it true that you cannot buy this product if you have a history of smoking or drinking? Yashish.
That is absolutely true. There are very few reasons why one cannot buy a cancer product. There are 2 cancer products in the market today from 2 different companies. Both of them cannot be purchased if one has a history of cancer in the family. However, for smokers, one of them can be purchased, one of them cannot be purchased. So you can get some options. In terms of other options that are available to people rather than standalone cancer products, one could go in for a significant critical illness cover also. Significant critical illness means 10 years, 20 years critical illness cover. That would cover diseases including cancer, like heart disease, brain disease, multiple sclerosis, lung disease, kidney diseases. So a critical illness plan can do a cancer plus. Of course, the cancer policies are more specialist, but there are some basic guidances that those products have, and one of them is that nobody in the family should have had cancer before the age of 60, and the second is the smoking component, because smoking, it has somewhat been found that there is some relationship between smoking and occurrence of cancers.
All right, we've got Ankaleshwar who's asked us, he says he has a family floater cover of 6 lakhs and would like to increase it to at least 10. Now, is that possible? Is it possible to convert the existing policy in the same individual's name? And he says he's 62 years old and his wife is 57 years old and they have a daughter who's 25.
They would have to undergo medicals. It is absolutely possible to increase your sum assured, but what we usually advise is for people to do that before the age of 45, because after 45, in case any pre-existing disease has set in, then it becomes difficult to increase your cover. However, in the same breath, I must explain there are certain policies, like the Reliance General Insurance policy and a few others, which have a life, Apollo, Reliance, a lot of policies have that, where they have built in a growth over a period of time. What that means is you buy a 3 lakh rupee policy, and in the next 10, 15, 20 years, it could become a 50 lakh rupee policy as long as you're not making very frequent claims, etc. So that kind of growth of the policy cover is possible in some plans. However, for them, they would have to undergo medicals. Of course, they can increase their cover from 6 lakhs to 10 lakhs as long as they are medically fit.
Right. We've got Praveen, and he says, I bought a senior citizen policy for my mother for 5 lakhs and I have paid 2 premium amounts of rupees 20,000 each. And we tried making a claim of rupees 15,000 last year and it is not being reimbursed by the insurer. They keep asking for more documents and he asks, what should he do and who should he reach out?
So it depends on what kind of documents they're asking for and how important those documents are. I think the first piece would be to reach out to somebody senior within that insurance company. First thing is to actually submit those documents, because they must be asking for those documents for a particular reason. Unless you just don't have those documents, in which case you should reach out to somebody senior in that organization. In case that does not help, then you go to the ombudsman and you explain to the ombudsman that the reason, there is a very small possibility where the insurance underwriting team may be asking you for, or the claims team may be asking for some documents in an unreasonable manner. If that is the case, the ombudsman will definitely, or their senior member will definitely ask them to, cool down and not ask for those documents.
Right, Yashish, that's all the time that we have on this episode. But last week we asked you a question, what does IDV in motor insurance stand for? And the correct answer is insured declared value, insured declared value. And Tanushri has got that question correct, and congratulations, Tanushri. This week's question is, which insurance policy gives holders the benefit of both insurance and investment? The options are term insurance, health insurance, money-back insurance, or ULIPs. And we'll see you with another episode of Policy Bazaar. You can write to us at queries@policybazaar.com. Goodbye.